In the quiet kingdom of Greenwood, there lived a king named Harold. He was not the richest king in the world, but he was wise and his people loved him. His wisdom, however, was believed to come from a special red cap he always wore. The cap, handed down by his ancestors, was said to carry the blessing of the spirits of the land. Every morning before speaking to his people or holding court, King Harold placed the red cap upon his head. With it, his voice sounded firm, his thoughts became clear, and the people trusted his every decision. But one fateful morning, the cap was nowhere to be found. When King Harold discovered the missing cap, his anger shook the palace walls. He searched his chambers, turned over his bed, and called his guards, but the cap had vanished. "Who dares steal from me?" he thundered, his face red with rage. Fear spread quickly. The cap was more than a crown, it was the heart of the kingdom. Without it, the people feared disaster would come. Rumors began to fly through the streets like restless birds, and the once joyful palace was filled with sorrow. The guards searched the royal room carefully and found something unusual, a long black feather lying on the floor where the cap once rested. No bird had been allowed into the king's chambers. Whispers rose among the servants. "This is not the work of man," they murmured. King Harold grew silent. He had heard old stories of a crow spirit that haunted the forest near Greenwood. It was said to steal precious things and lead men astray. "Find the cap," he roared. "Search the land until it is returned." In the village square, an old woman who everyone called Grandma Ruth sat spinning thread. When the people told her about the missing cap, she shook her head. "This is no ordinary theft," she said. "The cap has been carried into the forest, and whoever goes after it must have a clean heart." The villagers leaned closer. "What do you mean?" they asked. Grandma Ruth's voice dropped low. "Not all that flies is a bird, and not all friends mean well. The forest will test anyone who enters it." Among the people was a hunter named Thomas, known for his sharp arrows and fearless heart. But the king despised him. Long ago, Thomas had spoken against the king's judgment in public, and though his words were true, the king never forgave him. Since then, Thomas was treated as an enemy of the palace. Yet Thomas knew the forest better than anyone else. He alone could track the hidden paths and read the signs of animals. But when people suggested that the hunter should be sent, the king shouted, "Never! I would rather lose my crown than trust that man." Instead of calling Thomas, King Harold chose his loyal messenger, a young man named Peter. Peter was brave and obedient, though his heart trembled at the task. "Find my cap," the king said, "and I will cover you with gold." So Peter set out with nothing but his staff and a small bag of food. The villagers watched him disappear into the forest, whispering prayers for his safety. They knew that many who went into those woods never returned. Deeper and deeper Peter walked, until the sun grew dim under the thick branches. Suddenly, a crow landed on a tree branch above him. To his shock, it spoke with a human voice. "Looking for the king's cap, are you?" It cawed, its eyes gleaming like fire. Peter trembled but nodded. The crow laughed cruelly. "Then follow me, but beware. Nothing in this forest is free." With that, it flew ahead, leading Peter down a narrow path that twisted like a snake. The crow led Peter to a river that sparkled strangely. As he stepped near, the river began to speak. Faces rose out of the water whispering, "Cross if you dare, but leave behind what you love most." Peter clutched his wooden flute, the only memory of his late mother. With tears in his eyes, he placed it on the water. The flute sank, and a glowing bridge appeared. Heavy-hearted but determined, Peter walked across, knowing he had given away his dearest treasure. On the other side of the river lay a cave hidden by vines. The crow perched nearby and pointed with its wing. "There lies the cap," it said with a sly grin. Peter stepped inside. The cave was cold and damp. Strange eyes glowed in the shadows, and he heard a growl that rumbled like thunder. His hands shook, but he gripped his staff. From the darkness emerged a great wolf, black as midnight. On its head, like a crown, rested the king's red cap. Its eyes glowed yellow, and its teeth shone sharp as knives. "This cap is mine," it growled. "The king does not deserve it." Peter's legs trembled, but he stood tall. "That cap belongs to the king," he said firmly. The wolf snarled and leapt forward, but Peter quickly threw a piece of roasted meat from his bag. The beast pounced on it, and in that moment, Peter snatched the cap and ran. Peter burst out of the cave, clutching the cap. But the crow was waiting, its eyes burning red. "Well done," it croaked. "Now give it to me, and I will deliver it to your king." Peter remembered the old woman's warning. "Not all that flies is a bird." Shaking his head, he said, "No, this cap will go back only in my hands." The crow shrieked with fury, turned into black smoke, and vanished into the air. Weary but proud, Peter returned to Greenwood with the cap. The people cheered when they saw it, and the king placed it once more upon his head. Joy filled the land again, and Peter was showered with gold and honor. But in his heart, the king still hated Thomas the hunter and refused to thank him for teaching the people how to read the signs of the forest, which had helped Peter succeed. "The cap is mine again," the king said, "and all is well." Or so he thought. One evening, long after the celebrations, the cap disappeared again. Panic shook the palace, but this time no feather, no clue, and no trace was found. The king raged, searching high and low, but the cap was gone without a sign. It was the hunter, Thomas, the man the king despised, who finally found it. He discovered the cap hanging on a branch deep in the forest, untouched by beast or spirit. Quietly, he brought it back to the palace gates and laid it there, asking for no reward. From that day, the people whispered a new lesson. Sometimes the one you hate is the one chosen to save you, and pride can blind even the wisest king. My people, you have heard the story of the king's missing cap. In the end, it was not the loyal messenger or the mighty guards who saved the kingdom, but the humble hunter whom the king despised. This tale teaches us that sometimes, the person we reject is the very one chosen to help us. If you enjoyed this story, remember to give it a like, share it with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel for more powerful folktales every week. Until next time, may wisdom guide your steps.